What conspiracy theory are you sold on? Most conspiracy theories are planted by the government to cover the real conspiracies. The term conspiracy theorist was coined to make people that question things they shouldn't know about sound crazy. That way all the twisted stuff the government does flies under the radar. Some of the most powerful people in the world being part of a child sex trafficking ring. The Jeffrey Epstein case proved it's absolutely true. Here's the big one. Remember that Sunspot Observatory they closed for a week? There was no news, no leaks, for a week. That was September last year. They finally said a janitor had been using the observatory's internet for kiddie porn, but never charged him. That means he flipped on his master. It was almost directly south of the Kiddie Pimp King's New Mexico ranch by 100 miles or so. A couple months later, articles started getting published in a Miami paper about him that led to him being jailed. Here's my theory: the janitor was on the child sex slave master's payroll, using the observatory's fat internet pipeline to suck up all the video feeds from politicians having sex with his 16-year-olds, and younger, of every sex while high, and storing it as blackmail. The feds figured it out, and grabbed the vault. Separate a blackmailer from his compromat and he's powerless. That King Arthur's legend was a technological discovery. The sword from the stone was the discovery of natural iron, instead of the bog iron previously used for weapons. The Lady of the Lake was the discovery of quenching, which makes metal stronger. So by the Lady of the Lake helping them pull the sword from the stone, smelt iron weapons, and quench them, they allowed Arthur and his army, with superior weapons, to conquer England and become king. Disney named the movie Frozen, so when you Google Walt Disney and Frozen you don't get results about the old man's head. There's a similar theory with British politics at the moment, of politicians supposedly trying to hide things in search results. Like Boris Johnson painting miniature buses as a hobby, in an attempt to make that come up in Google results instead of the big red bus of lies he's associated with. He was calling himself a model of restraint, at the same time as a scandal involving the model. He was talking nonsense about a bridge from Scotland to Ireland. He was previously involved in a failed project in London called the Garden Bridge that wasted tons of money. The fact that hot dogs come in packs of 10 but buns come in packs of 8. First, you have to buy more hot dogs. Then, more buns. It's a never-ending cycle perpetuated by the hot dog/bun industry. Proof: tell a woman you like her dress, 9 out of 10 times the response will be, "Thanks. It has pockets." Remember when they had kids fingerprinted and photographed in case they were kidnapped? That was an easy way for the government to start a database of citizens while being publicly accepted. Even Disney parks use fingerprint scans to get in with multi-day passes. Universal Studios and Six Flags use fingerprints too, and it's kinda creepy. Not to forget all of our biometric security, aka databases with detailed fingerprint and facial scans of everyone who has a smartphone. That the whole new Coke fiasco was planned by Coke to fail. Coke was losing market share to Pepsi in the 80s and the cost of sugarcane was getting high, so Coke decided to take the short-term hit of introducing new Coke to replace the original Coke and have it fail. People would beg to have classic Coke back, and the company would oblige and see a huge spike in sales. This also helped them get over the ongoing PR issue all soda companies were having with the recent switch to high-fructose corn syrup. People were so happy to have old Coke back it helped ensure their market dominance. The whole thing was a take a short-term loss for long-term gain approach, and it worked. Mattress companies are mostly money launderers. And I know for a fact that loads of small diners are for money laundering. You know that diner that you always drive by, but have never stopped that happens to be in a strip mall or an extremely small building? That one. Also, car washes. The Susan G. Komen Foundation CEO is the last person who wants a cure for cancer, lest the money and influence they gain is rendered obsolete. That's why they put far more money and effort into BS awareness campaigns, pimp out pink ribbons on anything no matter how toxic. And even sue other charities for using the phrase for the cure, leaving less money for research and treatment. When Microsoft revealed the Xbox One, one of the features was that you wouldn't be able to play with a used game on the console. You either had to buy a brand new game or an activation code for the used game. I'm convinced that it was a marketing attempt to then come out as the good guys that listened to their customers and that they decided to roll back the feature. They just didn't plan for Sony to react as fast as they did, thus appearing as an out-of-touch company. When you think about it, no competent company could have thought that it was a good idea, especially when Nintendo tried the same thing a few years prior with the 3DS and got crap for it by pretty much everyone. I have not yet been convinced that you need to make steel beams melt to make them go all boiled spaghetti noodle. It's like nobody ever watches any how-to videos on metalsmithing. But I do think it's very possible that the government knew that those terrorists were planning something like 9/11 and failed to stop it because it wanted an excuse to go to war. The US government purposefully increased attention to the Toyota Prius recall because Toyota was beating GM in sales after the bailout and wanted to increase the return on bailout. If you remember, the Toyota Prius had a brake malfunction several years ago, 2013 I think, that required a recall and actually did cause some accidents. I am not disputing Toyota's actual mechanical issues. I am saying that automobile recalls happen pretty frequently and this was pretty straightforward logistically. However, this damn recall was all over everything. New outlets ran stories about it for weeks, C-SPAN had discussions regarding Toyota's liability, etc. What also happened around that time? Just the government bailing out GM and Chrysler several years before with a promise of repayment. Well, looking at when Toyota, and especially the Prius, started to surpass GM in automobile sales, it was awfully convenient for them to have problems. Those problems, coupled with constant publicity, actually hurt Toyota for a while there. I believe this was a conspiracy to hurt a foreign company because now the government had an invested interest in the success of GM. Shampoo is made to clean hair short term, but is not actually good for your hair long term, so you have to keep using it and buying more. Electronics are made to break. Oil companies suppress innovative clean power technology. As for electronics are made to break, that's not even a theory, it's an actual thing. Engineers etc. call it planned obsolescence. It's not just for electronics but just about any and every mechanical design. Cars are famous for it, which is why older models last longer. Electronics, certainly. There is a light bulb in California that has been on since 1901, so yes, everything that is made today is made to break because that means you have to consume more. It also adds to the tremendous waste and pollution of the world. If there's one thing we could change that could improve the world, it should be the policy to make and build stuff that lasts for as long as possible. We're a zoo planet. Like, the planet is a zoo and school trips from other planets zoom over here in their rocket ships to observe and then write papers about our stupid selves? When I was a kid, I always imagined that planet Earth was nothing more than a fish tank, sitting on a rickety table in some alien stoner's living room. Drunk friend bangs table, hurricane. Stoner forgets to take care of fish for a few months, drought and famines. I'm still secretly waiting for Stoner to find a girlfriend who either insists on cleaning up and taking care of the tank, or getting rid of it because it's beyond help. So many people mentioned it before, but Epstein. It was too convenient. Everybody laughed off the possibility of a big human trafficking ring run by the elite when Assange dropped the emails, right? Couple years later, Epstein gets arrested, has evidence of it, then dies? What kinda nonsense is that? One of my coworkers truly believes that Epstein isn't even dead, just a fake death so that some government branch could take him in for intensive questioning without any undue attention. I'm not really a conspiracy theory guy, but the question is often asked who benefits. The person who gained the most out of 9/11 was George Bush. He went from a joke of a president who most people considered stole the election, to being taken seriously because he is our president. Even my father, who hated the guy, got pissed off with me and corrected me when I referred to him as President Shrub a few months after the attack. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory or not. I imagine it qualifies. I'm convinced that JFK was accidentally killed by CIA-friendly fire. Not premeditated or anything, just an oops, as a CIA agent on a different car stumbled while drawing his weapon. To me, it covers all the bases. Weird angle of the shot, the odd behavior of the CIA afterwards, even the length of time the records are sealed until they want to ensure anyone who could possibly be held responsible, especially the accidental shooter, has died. The baggy pants urban look of the 90s was invented by fat, out-of-shape police officers who could not catch offenders unless they tripped over their pants. True story, cop friend worked mall security on the side. Guy in baggy pants grabs a pair $20 jeans and takes off. Friend pursues. He manages to grab the guy by the baggy pants and the dude runs right out of them. Pantless thief dashes off into the night with his stolen $20 jeans, leaving my friend holding a $100 designer pair. That we never sell cures to diseases and illnesses simply because it isn't profitable. It's so much more profitable to just endlessly sell treatments to the diseases and ask for money for research and development for cures that never come out to the public. The Democrats and Republicans are the same party. They split in half and take opposing sides on all issues, but intentionally just pass things to keep themselves in office and stuff that lobbies pay them to pass. All of democracy is an illusion. It keeps people in perpetual hope that things will get better when in fact it's the drip-drip effect of achieving the agenda of a select elite. The McCanns killed their daughter Madeline, then claimed she was abducted. I believe she was drugged the night before and died accidentally, and they hid her body before claiming she had gone missing. Their friends were involved in the cover-up. I'm not really sold on it, however. There is the conspiracy that the Vegas shooting was a Mexican cartel job, and was covered up. Here's why. There is evidence in the official FBI report regarding the shooting that the shooter was selling weapons illegally to criminal elements, and may have been working with the FBI as a mole. In the hotel room, there were something like 30+ guns displayed around it, even though the shooter only used one gun for the shooting. And I do mean displayed. They were placed on couches, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, everywhere. Apparently the shooter had an escape plan set up, and even had security cameras set up outside his hotel room, but no one was allowed access to see it during or after the investigation. This was never truly confirmed though. The one witness to the shooter, a security guard for the hotel who had something like 200 rounds shot at him, immediately went to Mexico on vacation after the shooting, before coming back and going to TV shows. Some people say it wasn't the same person, but I find that to be untrue. Almost all of the shooter's personal files and computers had been wiped and others had disappeared before the FBI got to his house, meaning he or someone else deleted his files and almost any evidence as to why he did it. This pretty much goes against the MO of every modern mass shooter. Now, I'm not sold that this is the truth, but it does make a little more sense than a millionaire went nuts and shot up a country concert. UFOs are real and we are currently in the middle of UFO disclosure. The U.S. government closed its UFO investigation program Project Blue Book in 1969, saying that UFOs don't exist and they don't study them. This was the official policy of the U.S. government for 50 years up until 2 years ago when the Pentagon revealed the existence of a secretive program that studies UFOs, and released footage of UFOs captured by Navy fighter jets. Since then there has been a steady flow of serious mainstream media coverage regarding UFOs. Based on the trajectory of the news stories, it seems like there's going to be even more information coming out over the coming years. The reason conspiracy theorists sometimes find legitimate documentation of government research into supernatural and paranormal claims, especially documentation which seems to suggest some actual success, is because the US government deliberately produced false reports of successes to fool Russian spies. Both the US and Soviet government were known to organize research projects into supernatural claims in hopes of it leading to some new kind of strategy or weapon. Pretty much all the research proved fruitless and sometimes even fraudulent on the part of the civilian research staff. For instance, there is legitimate documentation that the CIA was funding research into psychics who were capable of remote viewing, which is the ability to see things within being there. Very useful for spying. According to the reports, the research was even somewhat successful. However, the truth is that whenever a paranormal research project seemed to be failing without any hope of success, the CIA would step in and defund it and shut it down, but make the research staff produce reports of success without exact explanations for how they achieved it. Then make sure those files were stored somewhere a spy might stumble upon them. They knew the Soviets would see some mention of success in an area they had failed at themselves, or hadn't even considered, and would waste tons of valuable resources trying to recreate the success they believed the US had achieved. While the US government could afford to waste money, the Soviets could not. However, so many false reports were created to misinform the Soviets and weed out Russian spies that they didn't even know where they had stashed them all. Flash forward to today and every so often a conspiracy theorist stumbles upon one of these old reports, or speaks to someone who has. North Korea is a social experiment to figure out how humankind operates in total isolation. Nobody knows 100% for sure how North Korea is actually run. It's believed that it's actually just a military junta, and the Kim family are just a legitimate front to keep people rallied round a common cause. And so North Korea can be marketed to the world as something other than the military dictatorship it actually is. The Kim family live in obscene luxury to keep them sweet, and they are more or less held to ransom. Hitler didn't kill himself and fled to South America. There are some good evidence to believe this. But it's also very contradictory and commercial, this theory. As Argentinian, I was told 2 times there was after World War II a very important resident in this hotel, that lived hiding, and the few times we saw him he looked like Hitler. Once in Hotel Eden, in La Falda, Córdoba, also known for having paranormal activity. And situated in a neighborhood known by German-styled houses. It was a very rich, very powerful and very mysterious place in 1940s and 1950s. Now it's all about selling history and not knowing what is truth and what is exaggeration. Then in Bariloche there are some places that tells you that Hitler was hiding there. What should be known, is that Argentina in 1930s and 1940s was Nazi. During the war served both sides and only declared war to Germany in 1945. So it could be real that all Nazis' families migrated to Argentina just to not be killed.